Hello Ricky, this is your JZS171 brand new harness built for an Altezza RS200 plug and play. So obviously the harness is all completely brand new built. It's all labeled up for you. I'll try and see. And Jetta 6 there. And Jettas are also color coded. So you've got grey, then brown, then grey, then brown, then grey, then brown as we're going from there. Okay. It does obviously all plug in. You've got your grommet over there, ECU over there. You've got your 3 body plugs over here. I have got a little adaptation here because I'm converting from, this is an IS200. So I'm converting from an IS200 to an Altezza RS200. Okay, so that's what this is for. Obviously you're not going to have that. You're going to have 2 plugs there. They're just going to plug directly into there. Okay, so in terms of this, just plug in, away you go. Okay. Coming out the thing here, you've got obviously your igniter. So I've designed it in such a way that it mounts on the strut tunnel, kind of like an IS300 does. And then you've got these which get rid of the SLN, SLU, and SLT code. These get very, very hot, so you can take them down into there and you can just mount them there or mount them somewhere where they're not going to damage anything. So that's why these are, they've got quite a bit of length on them, so you can keep them far away from anything in here or over there. Okay, so very simple. The harness comes out here. You've got your gearbox because you're using the J160 gearbox. So I've got your entire gearbox harness. There's your reverse and your speed sensor is in here as well. And there's your speed. Okay, we'll need that in a minute for when we test. Okay, so nice and simple. Obviously it comes out here. It's then going to go to the front into the ECU box. It goes along your fuel rails here. Obviously you haven't got this fuel pulsation damper in the way, but it goes along here. Here's all your injectors. And then in the middle there, you see there, it splits over there. So then you've got all your sections that go down under the intake, and I'll go through those in a second. Then obviously you've got to come in around here, and you'll see what I mean here. So you've got basically brown for injector 1, grey for injector 2, brown for injector 3. So they're all color coded, so you don't get them wrong. Then you've got your oil control valve over here. Then it comes over the top, splits over here, and this is where it goes to your coil. So you've got 1, 2, and 3. And do excuse, I'm just using a 2JZ engine because it has everything pretty much exactly the same as a 1JZ. And so I can actually start it up and run it and see it, make sure that everything is working. This little harness section that you see pulled over here, this is actually going to the drive-by-wire. So in your case, this would be going down through the gap in the intake and coming forward to obviously your throttle body over here. All right. So you've got your drive-by-wire motor there, got your TPS there, you've got your pedal position. Now this obviously sits in this side, just sort of above here. So this actually just comes straight over here and goes over there. Then you come in down here and you've got your alternator plug. You've got your crank sensor plug. You've got your coolant temp sensor plug. Now obviously because this is a 2JZ-GTE VVT-i, our coolant temp sensor is on the cylinder head over there. So that's what this little harness is doing. It's going to the coolant temp sensor there. Then obviously when it splits over here, you've got your plug that's going to your wideband lambda and your air bypass valve. So these are obviously all labeled. So it's ABV for air bypass valve. Okay, so coming around to this side over here, so as I said, you've got all your bits and bobs coming through the harness there. Now over here you've got obviously your PRG and your FPU or fuel pressure up solenoid, so those live under the intake here. Then looking over there, you've got your knock sensor over there, you've got your starter wire over there. Coming forward, you've got your oil pressure. Do remember you need to change this oil pressure switch for your Altezza oil pressure sensor, otherwise your dash isn't going to work. You've got your other knock sensor over there. Then coming down along here, we've obviously got the AC plugged in over there, again all labeled AC. Okay, so that's pretty much it. It's really straightforward. It basically sort of comes, it'll come in the grand scheme of things, it's going to come like this, go along here, over the top and down there. That's pretty much it. And then everything will just go through these little cavities and the thingy to come down underneath. And then you obviously this little bits, these little guys here are going to come forward and go to your throttle body that normally sits there. All right. So what we're going to do is we're just basically going to run through a couple of tests. So I've got immobilizer removal. Now obviously the Altezza 3SGE never came with an immobilizer, even as an option. So obviously we can't hook up like the security light. So my test for immobilizer removal is the fact that it starts and runs. Drive-by-wire test, so we'll put the ignition on and we'll move the drive-by-wire so you can actually hear that working. We're going to go to the ambient temperature sensor inside and make sure that that's working correctly. We're going to look at the charge lights, so that's part of the dash lights over here. All right, then we're gonna go, and oil pressure in your case is not applicable because I haven't got an Altezza clock, so I can't actually show the oil pressure gauge. But that's why I said it is all wired up. It's just a case of you do need to change that oil pressure switch for the Altezza one. It came in the Altezza and the Land Cruiser, so if you don't have the part number for that, maybe what I'll do is I'll try and put it in the bottom here for you, or I'll put in the description the part number for the Altezza oil pressure sensor to make your dash work. All right. Then we're going to test the reverse by bridging the switch. We're going to test the speed by feeding it a signal and obviously seeing that the dash goes up and down. Obviously the tacho will show working as soon as the engine starts. Now for the tacho, obviously this is putting out a 6-cylinder signal from the ECU. Our gauge or MPX device here is actually converting it from 6-cylinder down to 4-cylinder. So what you're going to see is obviously my clocks are wrong because these are 6-cylinder, and so I've done that to confirm that basically I'm seeing exactly what I want to be seeing, and that is that this is effectively under reading because it's got a 6-cylinder instead of a 4-cylinder signal, so that's fine. All right, fuel pump relay we can actually test with the tech stream when you plug that all in. Starter circuit, again, we're just going to test that by cranking it over. AC, I can actually activate the magnetic clutch relay, and I'll show you when the engine's running that it actually goes in. I obviously can't do it for long because I'm going to seize the pump up. And then coolant temp is on the dash here, and one I missed out was obviously the actual tech stream. So I've got my little Toyota Intelligent tester here. So first thing I'm going to do now is we're going to fire up the ignition. So again, this is plug and play, so effectively this is your car. Put the ignition on. You can see we've got our check engine light there. Obviously I've been running it so the coolant temp's already gone up. We've got our battery light on here. Obviously you don't have, one of these gauges would be replaced with the oil pressure. That's what you would have. All right. So I'm just going to go into here. Okay. And I'm going to go into function. I'm going to go into system select just so you can see. There you go. So it's picking up Crown JZS. All right. Okay, and sorry, this is just plugged in directly into your OBD2 port inside the car. So again, all plug and play, so you don't have to worry about it. It's not like you've got to do something in the engine bay. As per normal, as you would in your normal Altezza if nothing was gone. Okay, so as you can see, we can see all of the data on here. So you see there's 78 degrees, 32 degrees, intake temp, 14% throttle, idle switch on. Okay, so we're actually seeing all the live data. Now, obviously on the JZS171, it's got a pressure sensor for the power steering. If you don't connect that pressure sensor, it's going to throw up a check engine light code. But that pressure sensor is obviously built into the power steering line. If you don't have it, you can do a little trick that I found out today, and that's just take an old map sensor. Obviously these came on an IS200, but they obviously came on like 2JZ-GTEs or whatever as well, but they're plenty around. Toyota have like a standardized pressure sensor connector, so they pretty much all go in and they all have the same pinout. So effectively I've just got this plugged in, otherwise I'd have a code for power steering pressure sensor, and that would cause you a check engine light. Not fun. All right, so starting from that, obviously we'll do immobilize removal as part of the starting. The drive-by-wire test. Okay, you just have to listen for this, to be fair. There. You can actually hear the motor opening and closing. All right, the one thing I want to remind you is the 1JZ, this is the JZS170 and JZX110. It is drive-by-wire, obviously. It does have a cable, but it is drive-by-wire, first of all. Secondly, they will only open the throttle full, I think, once it gets above 30 degrees on the coolant temp. So when you first fire up the ignition and you go like this, it's not going to open the whole way. What I might do is at the end, I'll let it cool down and see if I can get a video just to show you how it doesn't open all the way when it's ice cold. So we'll do that at the end there, but yeah, this is obviously opening fully, and obviously we'll rev it up so you can actually see it over there. Okay. This is the style of map sensor that you need on the JZS171. So just make sure you get the correct one. The big sort of thick ones, if you will, that's for the JZX100. Completely different pinout. You're going to blow up the airflow meter if you plug this plug into one of those big thick ones for a JZX100. All right. These came on a lot of vehicles, to be fair. I mean, this one I've got here with this airbox is actually from my IS220D. And it all works fine. So all gravy. Okay. So that's the drive-by-wire done. What we're going to do now is we're going to go look at our ambient temperature. And there you go. Let me shine the light on it so you can see. There you go. 19 degrees. So we're happy with that. That all works as it should. So let's go over to our next one. Charge light. Well, we know that works. The trick is we're going to start it up and that's obviously going to go away. So we've got oil pressure not applicable and reverse. Okay. So I'm going to replicate what your gearbox is going to do. So I've got a little piece of wire here. Ching. And I'm literally, see if I can get this in shot. Oh, well, screw it. There it is. Just bridged. And you can hear that annoying reverse beep. Okay. So we're happy with that. We know that works as it should. So now we're going to move on to the next one, which is the speed. Right, so this is my little device. Outputs a speed signal. It's usually you can find tacho inputs on dashes, etc. So I'm going to do a double test because basically this is a Hall effect sensor. So we've got power, ground, signal. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the power and ground from this, putting it into this plug. That means that all the power and ground connection are correct, and then I put the yellow one into the signal wire and the dash shoots up. So just bear with me a minute while I do that. Okay, so that's that one. Okay, so we've got that. So we've basically got power and ground in there. We see that's powering up, so I'm happy with that. That means all the wiring to the actual speed sensor is correct. And obviously I can't reach all the way, but there you go. So that all works for your speedo. So again, happy with that. Right, so after speed, okay, so we've got tacho, fuel pump, relay circuit. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it. So obviously what I'll do is I'll do the fuel pump relay because I can do that via text stream. And there's another thing I'm going to test as well is going to be the oil control valve. So when it's running, I'm actually going to go and test the Vvti control. So you're going to hear the engine make a hell of a weird noise as soon as I do that. But that's just to make sure that the solenoid is working correctly as it should. So that's all good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on to fuel pump. Okay, it says fuel pump relay, it says fuel pump. I've got a video explaining how Toyota does this very weirdly. If you want to watch that, do go ahead. Just remember yours is controlled via the ECU, so there's nothing you have to do. We've put a resistor in for the FPR, so you don't get the code 78 for fuel pump relay. Okay, but your pump's going to run full the whole time because that's how an Altezza works. There is no system to run it through a resistor or etc, etc. Okay, so I'm going to hit the fuel pump on and off. Right, I'm going to move over here to the fuse box so you can hear, hopefully. Cool. Okay, so that works. Obviously when I start the motor and run it, you know it's working because it's running. Just to be sure, on the fuel pump system, it doesn't prime. Again, that's part of my other video where I explain how the fuel systems work. These things don't prime. They only turn on when you crank the vehicle, so they get a starter signal, and they carry on running as long as they get a crank signal. If the engine quits turning over, the fuel pump will turn off. Okay, so that's the fuel pump part. What I'm going to do actually as well is while you're here, I'm just going to show you that the AC magnetic clutch relay works. Okay, so obviously this is going to be 1, 2, 3. I think you can actually hear the clutch engaging on the engine. I wonder if I can actually get you to see that. Just give me a second. Maybe I can pull this text string all the way over here. Okay, so if you take a good look at the clutch. Okay, there you can actually hear it. And I'm thinking, because I can actually see it going in and out, hopefully you can as well. There you go. Okay. So, as long as your aircon system is all plumbed up, and what I mean by that is that basically you need to have all the systems in place. The pressure switches in the front, all of that type of jazz. Okay, so that all has to be there. If that's not there, it's not going to work. So it's all working as Toyota originally intended. All right. So I think the next thing to do is, okay, coolant temp, well, I mean, you can see the dash is working over there, so that's absolutely fine. So the next thing I gotta do now is start her up. So that's gonna prove that everything is working as it should do. We'll then jump in and we'll do the oil control valve test. Obviously we're gonna see the RPM coming through on the dash here. And then obviously we're gonna see the temperature go up, etc, etc, and obviously the drive-by-wire. I'll do a little rev so the drive-by-wire works for you, okay? So I gotta put my earmuffs on, otherwise I'm gonna go deaf, because this is one loud engine. All right, I don't know what you're gonna hear, but I'm gonna carry on talking in a rather loud voice, and hopefully you hear something, all right? Okay, so let's do this. So again, there's your key, and we go 1, 2, 3. Show you the clutch working. Working, we've got the RPM working, we've got no codes at all, so I'm just going to go into here. Okay, I'm just going to start it up 2 or 3 times just so you can see there are definitely no codes that are coming through. Alright, so happy with that. I think I unplugged the map for a bit when I was doing the airbox on there. So I'm happy with everything. Seems to be all good. She seems to be running nice and smoothly. Obviously this is a 2JZ using a 1JZ ECU. So I think she's idling a little bit high possibly because of that. But anyway, she runs, she's smooth, she revs up, the drive-by-wire works, everything on your dash works. Obviously when you get in your Altezza, make sure you put the oil pressure switch on so you've got that. So basically all that you have to do on your side is 2 things. 3 things. Plug it all in there. Connect your main power from your starter up to your battery over there. You should have this plug that goes into this fuse box. You see that comes down there and goes into that fuse box. Then you've got to make your cable coming from here, which is your alternator. And that's running down. And then obviously in your case running down to the alternator where it plugs in. Over there. Actually 4 things, do apologize. Earth. So you can see I've earthed down there at the bottom of the block. So usually there's like a place here where you can earth it out. Alright. And there's only one earth on the harness which comes out here, because you should have this little sort of flat surface here on your inlet manifold, and that's where it earths over there. And then obviously you've got a fuel pressure regulator actually at the front there, over there. Okay, so I'll include all the pictures at the end. So once I stop videoing, we'll go from there. I'm going to try and see if I can show you how the throttle doesn't open fully when it's ice cold. If I can do that, what I may actually do is I'll do a separate video for that, just so you can see what you can do. I'm also going to do a separate video on how the engine behaves when the MAF is unplugged. So basically I'm just going to show how it'll hit like 3000 RPM and it'll just dung, 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 like bounce around. So I'll throw these videos in just so you have other resource, but this is already 20 minutes. I don't want to go any longer. Otherwise everyone's going to get bored and switch off. So stick around. I have all the pictures of everything of how it's built and how it all looks underneath the heat shrink. And again, on your side, this should be relatively straightforward. Box in here, igniter on there, mount these somewhere down in here, run the harness around the engine, plug everything in, everything is labeled, and then away you go. If you've got the pressure switch for the power steering, hook it up. If you don't, grab yourself a Toyota pressure or map sensor and just plug that in. That'll get rid of your code for you, and you can just leave that out. All right, but that should be everything. Next thing to do is get this in a box and get it off its way to you in Canada. All right, but thank you everyone for watching. And if you have any questions, just file them in the question section. You can find us at Phoenix Engine Management on Facebook and Instagram. And I think that's it really. Yeah, Instagram and Facebook, and obviously our YouTube channel. All right, but anyway, I've waffled on enough. Hopefully that's helpful, Ricky. And yeah, we'll get this in the box to you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.